What does God look like? What do you see?
We're solar-powered biological AI.
Wait, what?
These ancient adversarial entities, I think it's the very same ones that rebelled against God and were cast out.
They were sent here to guide us in antiquity, and they took advantage of that and just masqueraded as gods.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Grey Pill Podcast. I'm your host, Jules, the Mississippi Mystic, the Handsome Hierophant, the Elohim Etymologist. I have many other titles. No need to go through all that. Tonight, we have a banger show lined up for you. Banger guest. I would say a returning guest, but we had first met on the Occult Rejects. It was an excellent episode, and I've been seeing your shorts pop up on my X feed lately, so I felt like I had to bring you on. Before we get started, guys, be sure to like the stream, share it with your friends and family, get some more people in here. Tonight, I am joined by Mr. Miguel Connor of Aeon Byte. Miguel, how are you doing this evening? Let's give you some applause. There we go. What's going on, man? It's good to have you.
Man, the special effects, I don't know what to do with that. Yeah, I'm doing good.
This show's a little different than the Occult Rejects. You know, we like to have a little fun as well as learn some things, right? So for people who don't know who you are, man, if you want to kind of drop some plugs, let them know a little bit about what you talk about, just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, most of me know me as the Gnostic guy. I don't consider myself a Gnostic, but we can talk about that. But I am the host of Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. Been doing that for a while. I'm also the author of the Occult Elvis and the upcoming book, The Gnostic David Bowie. And in between, I'm just a magician of words, marketing, and whatever I can get away with. I also do voiceover work for those who need it.
You have a fantastic
and yeah,
voice.
that's me.
Yeah, man. No, you definitely have a fantastic voice. Yeah, no, I think when you came on the Occult Rejects, we were talking about David Bowie, and dude, the synchronicities that were happening around that time. We were watching Twin Peaks, I think on Patreon still. Yeah. And because we started streaming it to the public towards the end, so people could get it. I may do it again, man. I really love the show, and so does the audience. So, and you know, I think the more you watch that show, the more you get into it, kind of peels back these layers of esoterica that you can find out along the way. And I found it very interesting that Bowie, you know, he was in Fire Walk with me, and I think me and you had talked about that. I'd asked you, and you were like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you know, he was into the occult, and you know, we know that Lynch was, right. He has all these underlying themes and kind of motifs throughout all his film, and Mark Frost too, I think, the producer of that. But yeah, man. So I just wanted to have you on. So what is Gnosticism to you, and how do you view reality and kind of what we find ourselves in?
No, I don't regard reality in much high esteem. I can tell you that. But
Okay.
What did Groucho Marx say? I'm not very fond of reality, but it's still the only place to get a good meal. So I would agree with that. You know, we got good restaurants, good coffee here and there. So kittens are fun, but yeah, that's it. That's how I see reality. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. There's a a Gnostic priestess who once told me the Gnostics don't hate reality, they hate false realities. And I think any exploration will tell us that this reality is not real. There's something on the other side, there's something deeper. There's a home we need to get to, and that's always been my exploration. And I think that's what the Gnostics were trying to do 2,000 years ago. They didn't hate reality, they just wondered, they were just not satisfied with the reality that had been handed to them by their governments, by the gods, by their family, society, whatever it is. And they were going to go on a quest to find out what's the reality behind reality, as Philip K. Dick said. So, and of course, the biggest false reality we all have is ourselves. We're all constructs, we're all phonies, we're all program robots by our parents, by our churches, by our peers and all that. And just that's the way it is. But the Gnostics assumed that there was something deeper and more real within us, and that was worth it. And nothing controversial, because what does the famous dictum at the Oracle at Delphi say? Know thyself. That is the number one command of the gods, if you would. And the Gnostics were very much about that, self-knowledge. They're very specific about the greatest sin, as the Gospel of Philip said, is ignorance. It's the mother of all evil. We're all ignorant, or most of us are ignorant of being ignorant. I know I am, and I have a lot of blind spots.
Absolutely.
I am no guru. I am not wiser than you or anybody in your audience.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure my shit out, but I am on this quest. So that's why I like Gnosticism, because it has that sort of Alcoholics Anonymous intensity, where it's like, until you realize you have a problem, the problem ain't going to go away. So you got to do your work. Or what do they say in Alcoholics Anonymous? How do you know you've hit rock bottom? You stop digging. And most of us have been digging our whole damn lives. So we need to stop digging. So that would say it's my thrust. And, by any means, I am not perfect. I fall into the trap of materiality, self-denial, group thought. I'm still haunted by my shadow and trauma and programming. So it's sometimes it's a one step ahead, two steps back. But I continue in this journey of self-knowledge. And for me, your mileage may vary. The Gnostic thought and philosophy and aesthetic works for me, but everybody's different. What works for you is great, as long as you grow, expand your consciousness, and you're nice to people.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. And it's unfortunate you find a lot of people gravitating towards, what you would say is materiality, right? The lower self, or the lower nature of ourselves. And that is normal. Right? No one's perfect. And this is a path. This is a journey that we're going on. Dude, I mean, I didn't really realize it was a spiritual journey until I started talking about it with other people who were on this journey, and I'm not a Gnostic per se. I read a lot of Gnostic texts. I love a lot of the thought behind it. And, I probably have adapted a lot of Gnostic thought to my own spiritual practice, my own life. And so, and would you say that a lot of people probably do that and they don't even know it?
I would say so. There's a quote by Gnostic bishop and author and Jungian scholar Stephen Heller. He said, every serious artist is already half a Gnostic. Because as an artist, you're going to go deep into your unconscious. You're going to go deep into the heart of darkness of, was it Robert Conrad? You're going to go deep into the nature of humanity and reality, and you're going to come back with some very hard truths. Things ain't perfect. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of death. We seem to be controlled by this strange entities. We seem to be, again, most humans are just cattle or chattel programmed. So I would say so. Yeah, there's always going to be some overlap. Yeah, I don't think it's possible not to. And you see that with the great writers. I mean, Stephen King has created Gnostic cosmologies, like in It. Mm-hmm. You look at some of the greatest artists in history: Herman Melville, Cormac McCarthy, William Blake, Robert Frost. They all knew of the Gnostics, and they wrote about the Gnostics, and they used Gnostic themes in their work. So Look at our greatest modern mythologies. What is it? Arguably the Matrix, and that's right there, a Gnostic gospel. It's part of our vernacular. It's part of our worldview. So I would say so, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a Gnostic. I mean,
Right.
there were Gnostics like, let's say, Philip K. Dick or Carl Jung, and they thought the world was fine. They thought, yeah, this is great. It's just, it just needs some fixing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of been, I would say that I'd say that Gnosticism has been kind of thrown under the rug, as far as, it's looked upon as this like secret society, with the Rosicrucians and the Masons. What was it about Gnosticism that made, I guess you could say, the powers that be, the church, kind of discard it? Was it because it helped people?
Well, I don't think they discarded it. They squashed it. They hit the hammer harder, and they appropriated what they wanted, which was useful. Paul, Mary Magdalene, Gospel of John is very Gnostic, because it's true and it works and it empowers people. But I think it really has to do with just the worldview. I mean, the idea of a simulation is not something that was very popular in the West until recently. 2,000 years ago, when the Gnostics were talking about a simulation, how we are constructs trapped in the matrix, that didn't go well. It was so alien. In the East, I think, that's fine. They have a few thousand years on us.
More Eastern mysticism.
Yeah. So but not here, because it's very dangerous, because then people start asking their own questions, because Gnosticism is always like, nobody's coming to save you. You need to go inward and you need to find your way to find your own red pills. And that was not a good idea for controlling a civilization, for having a proper civilization, especially when you're giving people direct access to higher worlds, which is what the Gnostics contended. And also the idea, probably the same reason why, let's say, the Book of Enoch kind of got squashed or tucked away, because you're suddenly saying, if this world is ruled by fallen angels or archons and they're just running around wrecking havoc and all that, what does that say about the CEO of the universe? That doesn't look good on him. I mean, old Yahweh doesn't look very good. And if you start telling people this is a simulation, it doesn't look good on the head engineer or programmer of this universe. And they knew, well, no, we gotta tell people that God is in charge, and that his subjects on earth, the church and the rabbis and all that, and the mullahs, are doing a fine job. So things like that just had to be, shunted to one side and suppressed. Again, the idea of a simulation, deficient creator gods, the idea that we can leapfrog over institutions and have direct knowledge with the divine,
right?
Stressing the divine feminine, all the things that Western society hated.
Yeah, that's something that you see being bastardized right now and kind of pushed back against. Is they look at all these female deities and they don't think for a second that it's in any way symbolic, right? They're all demons and succubus and all this stuff. Would you say that Yaldabaoth is and for people, and that's the demiurge, right? I mean, that is the and
that's one of the names of the demiurge, the fierce creator god of this construct, who they often associated with the God of the Hebrew Bible. But some of them, it would be Saturn, Osiris. Any managerial creator god was seen by the Gnostics as like, you got some explaining to do, man. This company sucks. The culture sucks. The hierarchy sucks. We got to fix this business. And they saw there was a higher god, which was basically pure information, similar to the one of Plato or something like that, who they were trying to contact to wake up to their divine nature and find ways of healing and breaking open this prison planet or matrix.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if that was in any way, shape, or form related to Yahweh.
For sure.
Yeah, because people seem to forget or tend to forget that, in the Old Testament, there are many of these deities mentioned, right? It's not all just one devil or one Satan. It's many of these dark archetypes, right? That you see throughout all of antiquity. And
they all suck. No, just kidding.
Well,
I have devotion to gods and goddesses. Don't get me wrong. It's an image and a myth, but to the Gnostic, the goal is the supreme undivided consciousness.
Yeah, well, dude, like as I've gone down my own path, I've realized that a lot of what you just said, these gods and goddesses are symbolic, right? And they're attributed to our human nature, right? We were created in God's image, so the emanations of God would look like us, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do think they are kind of independent. They are intelligences. I think.
Okay.
They're as real as our minds can figure out. I would say so. Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah, man. And I think, I think how people, like you said, kind of how we're institutionalized and kind of taught all these things. It puts this, this way of thinking into our subconscious, where they do kind of control, and they have programmed us to feel this certain way. And so I think that does manifest in many other ways, right? Spiritually, you could say the people that fear demons the most are the people that probably encounter them the most, right? So you said earlier something about, and I brought you on to talk to you about this dude, Elvis. You wrote a book on Elvis. Now, he was a Gnostic?
I don't know if you would call him a Gnostic. He certainly read their texts, like the Gospel of Thomas and others. And he certainly was a believer in a direct experience with Jesus and a Christ consciousness and so many of the other features of the Gnostics. But he was into a lot of occult stuff. He was into theosophy. He was big into Manly P. Hall. He was big into Kriya yoga. He was into astrology, numerology. I mean, he was basically almost your boilerplate occultist back in the early 60s. I guess you could say he was a chaos magician, right? Because Elvis did what he wanted to do. And once he got a taste of the esoteric traditions, he was off to the races, and he was already a natural born mystic, right, and a magician. So that was his sort of secret life that he didn't hide it. I mean, there's that new movie that just came out, the documentary from Baz Luhrmann, Epic, and I had to laugh. I went to see it, and it's funny because now that they've restored all this concert footage, when he's there on stage, and back then men showed their chests, right? Mm-hmm. You always see the Egyptian Ankh right there. It's like this big. I mean, he was showing it off to the world. So yeah, Elvis was he was on a level of his own, like with most things.
Yeah, I mean, he wore a cape, right, to kind of symbolize that of being an ascended master of some sorts. And I've heard stories, obviously on like random documentaries here and there, probably YouTube shorts and reels, of him having this connection with the divine, or with what people would probably say aliens or something, right? But it was this energy that he possessed, right, that he knew how to kind of use to his advantage.
No doubt. And again, the book, I didn't go to like YouTube channels or tabloids. Elvis was kidnapped by aliens, which you'd read all the time in the 80s and 90s and all that. But no, I got it from the horse's mouth. I got it from like Priscilla's biography, bodyguards, spiritual teachers, cousins, girlfriends, all that. And he could do things that are just unbelievable. Manipulate weather, astral travel, heal. He had powers of prophecy. He was a very, very, very pretty good astrologer and numerologist. I mean, he was on a level of his own. So he was a natural born magic user and mystic. So it's amazing that the world has missed it. But then again, Elvis Inc., the empire around him still wants to present him as this Well, where you are, good old Southern boy from Tupelo, Mississippi, right?
Right. Well, he is the egregore, right? Like that Elvis egregore is larger than life, man. I don't think it'll ever go away. I mean, there's
No.
people that worship him like a god, right?
Yeah, and I don't blame them. I call him America's magician.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let's
he
go,
is-
man. That's a true
he-
Elvis fan right there.
he's
love
the
it.
manifestation of the American dream, the American power. He's our shaman. He is, like you said, the egregore of the American dream and the American hope. And he is the towering figure over this country. And he represents America, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. So, and like you said, he's not going away. It's the documentary is probably going to make like $20 million. This small documentary. He's already in the top 10 charts and music already again. So he's and he's probably as popular as he's ever going to be, as he has been. So it's something else. But what are you going to do?
Right. Well, when did you first realize that he was this kind of this mystic? Like what made you want to write the book? And you said the book is called Occult Elvis, right?
Yeah,
The
it's right
mystical
back there.
and magical life of the king.
Correct.
It's
I
right
didn't
there.
want to write the book. I was kind of forced. He forced me.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So-
I never liked Elvis. I was always a Beatles person.
really?
Yeah. And then was it 2022? I started having these weird syncs, and I did an ayahuasca ceremony in Europe.
Nice.
I was visiting family, and it was really intense, but still there was no Elvis. And after that, this voice kept saying, you need to write this book. You need to. And I just became completely obsessed with Elvis. And I had read about his occult leanings here and there, interviewed a few people, but it was kind of like, you do that. Jimmy Page was into Thelema. The Beatles were into Hindu. You just assume that's what rock stars were doing. And no
Bowie,
big deal.
right.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
just assume, Ronald Reagan was into astrology and Manly P. Hall. And you sort of write it off.
He was in the hall?
Oh, yeah. Ronald Reagan. Elvis and Ronald Reagan were huge Manly P. Hall fans.
I'm a big fan of Hall's treatise. A whole lot of his smaller works. It's helped me learn a lot in very little time.
Yeah, amazing. A great pioneer and force. But so I just wrote it off. But eventually in 2022, it took over me. It was almost like this voice. It was independent, autonomous voice. It didn't have his accent, but it was just clear. And my health started failing, and the things got worse. And finally, in 2023, I said, "All right, I'll write this book." Knowing little about Elvis, and then 3 months later, the book came out, and a couple months later, the publisher accepted it. So it was. I was called to write this book. Channel. I don't know. I like to call it Quantum Entangled with Elvis.
Yeah, man. No, that's fascinating, dude. And you said that your health kind of you got sick until
my hip went out. My left hip. Of course, it had to suddenly in January of 2023, my hip really hurt. I could barely walk. I was having problems walking the dogs and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to get an effing hip replacement. And as soon as I sat down to write the book, the hip pains went away like that. So, and of course, hips and Elvis go hand in hand. There's no,
Oh my God, man! I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, Elvis
Wow,
the
so
pelvis,
this is-
as he used to be called.
Well, in my opinion, this is what Elvis's higher self, or whatever you want to kind of explain that as. When you were having this ayahuasca, this spiritual experience, he contacted your higher self and was basically like, "Hey, man, I need you to get this out. People need to really know who I was, and until you do that, hey, you can be hurting at the hips because dude, that's so wild."
That's usually how the gods go. I mean, Plato talks about the divine madness. You're possessed by a god, and usually the gods have two choices. You have two choices: pain or a lot of pain. There's no like rewards or anything like that. if it's true, they're going to use you, and then that's just the way it is. That's kind of the curse and the blessing of being a human. We are channels to higher powers, maybe lower powers, and and our duty is to follow these because there's some grand cosmic design, the universe trying to become conscious or individuated, and all of us have a role. Mine happened to be Elvis, because in a million years I would have never wanted to write an Elvis book. Just, again, I was a Beatles guy, but we all have that mission. And again, if we listen to what our mission is, we'll find it. With me, it took the ayahuasca to kind of open that doorway of perception into the spirit world, but we all have it. And again, our ego may want rewards and all this stuff, but no, the mission is what matters.
That reminds me, it's very similar to the story. I don't know if you remember Credo Mutwa, the Zulu shaman that used to hang out with David Icke a whole bunch.
No.
David Icke would just go and put a camera next to. He would just talk for hours about his ancestors, and then him and these beings that he was having contact with. And when he was a kid, he grew up in the United States, or maybe somewhere in England. It's been a while. I need to pick up the book and finish it. But it's called he was a Sangoma, and he was raised in the church, and he was like deathly ill all the time, like just sick as a dog, and they did all these spiritual prayers, healing stuff over him, just didn't get better. His family, something happened to where he went back to Africa and basically took on the practice of becoming this shaman, this Sangoma, healed instantly. And it's like we don't know what path we're on until you get to that point near death, right? For me, it was with drugs and experiencing that and coming back from that, that a lot of people don't come back from. And it put me on the spiritual path, and here I am today, and I don't regret anything, man. All the research I've done, all the conversations I've had, all the spiritual encounters both me and my wife have had, these synchronicities, like this stuff. These aren't coincidences. Like, that's a big no-no on my show. We don't ever use that word. Those don't exist. But was this kind of the same thing with? I was trying to think with the book about Bowie.
Yeah.
You wrote another book. It was about Bowie.
It was the same thing. Yeah. I was done, and I was like, because it's so draining. It took, despite how fast I did it, and of course there's edits and all that, it really took everything out of my soul and my body. And then when I was done, I was like, okay, I'm never going to have to write another spiritual biography in my life. This was a one-time deal. Then another voice came, said, you forgot about Elvis 2.0. I was like, Elvis 2.0? There ain't no Elvis 2.0. There's a lot of Elvis impersonator, millions of them across the world. Japan and Spain and England, and no. And this voice said, no, my name is David Bowie. I was like, David Bowie? And then suddenly it was like, oh my God, you guys are the same force, the same alien saviors from the stars, the same message. It was so obvious they're the same figure, and they both knew they were the same figure. They knew each other. You start finding out all this wonderful, these little secrets. So then I sat down and wrote the David Bowie book, and that took longer. It took about a year because I was so busy finishing the final edits and promoting it and all that. But so the Gnostic David Bowie will come out this fall, and I don't think I can handle a third book. I don't think I can handle an Elvis 3.0. I think I'll just fall down and die.
Some force tapping you on the shoulder. It's like, actually, everything comes in threes.
No, it's like, but I'm thinking, who could it be? Prince? Michael Jackson? I can't think of anybody.
Michael Jackson, Prince? I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't either.
Do you think they were these figures, kind of these like larger than life figures as well, that were imbued with the spirit?
What do you mean?
Well, like this mystic spirit, right? Kind of to take on the role of what they become.
I think they were both, well, they were both very tormented individuals. They're both very broken
Right.
individuals. I use the trope on both books of the wounded healer because in a lot of shamanistic societies, and modern shamans hate to see it, New Agers hate it when I bring it up. Oh my God, the pushback I get pushback on everything, Gnosticism, Elvis. But the idea that in a lot of shamanistic societies, the shaman is picked of the person who's the most traumatized and broken as a child. Somebody who's had a near-death experience, who's sick, something like that, because children, when they are broken, and you wonder about MK Ultra and all those shenanigans,
Man.
the channels of communication open and they have very powerful access to the spirit world. And as they grow up, they believe that they can heal and help the tribe, not despite their wounds, but because of their wounds. And sometimes they think, if I heal my trauma or my physical deficiency, I will lose my magical powers. And they believe that. And these broken individuals become very powerful shamans. And that's what they believe. And of course, insanely empathic and very artistic. Shamanism is very much about the costumes and the music too. Most people forget they're the rock stars of their tribes. So Elvis and David Bowie certainly fit that mold because both unfortunately had very traumatic childhoods of abuse. They had health problems, all that, and they somehow became shamans in their own respective way. And both really beyond trying to survive their pain and trauma, they were really trying to find God. That was their big mission. That's something you don't hear. That was almost number one. Trying to understand the divine, trying to understand their role in the universe, and trying to help others find their roles in the universe. I mean, Elvis always knew, he said, I could be a religious leader. I have the power, I have the skills, I have the fame and the money. But he was always waiting for God to tap him on the shoulder and said, all right, we're going from rock star to religious leader. And of course, Bowie was always a pseudo-religious figure, if you would. But both, yeah, they were wounded healers. They were shamans. And they were trying to understand the role in the universe. And their music and their stories helped millions of people heal themselves and find themselves in this post-war America and Europe. And I think their music still heals it. And again, that's the irony, right? The wounded healer can heal others, but not themselves. That's the last people they're going to heal. And you see that with Jim Morrison, and so many other figures. They can't do it. So
yeah, man, I was never a big fan of the Doors growing up, and I had an experience a few weeks ago. Put on the Doors, and man, I was like, wow, I get it now. I was like, holy shit, you know.
And Jim Morrison was into shamanism, the esoterica, Nietzsche, all that. You know, he was also into it too. Very much a mystic.
Yeah, and it makes sense with the music thing because even when you get into Western, you know, the schools of the Western esotericism, the orders of the quest, these guilds of knights, it was the bards and the skalds that kept these esoteric traditions through the songs. Right. And I've always found that fascinating because I've been a drummer for so long. And during COVID, I actually learned how to play the bass. I was inspired by the band. Have you ever listened to Morphine? Great band. I tell this to everyone who comes on. 3-piece band, a drummer, a guy that plays the tenor sax, I believe the tenor sax. Sometimes he plays both the baritone and the tenor, and then the vocalist who plays a 2-string bass. And they were a band in the mid-90s for about 2 or 3 years, and then Mark Sandman, the vocalist, collapsed on stage. Yeah,
I think I have heard them. Yeah, it's been a while.
It's a great.
I think in the '90s I listened to them.
Man.
Yeah, they're
and I actually play them sometimes before my Saturday morning show. But yeah, it's like they have this job of carrying, you know, being like you said, the rock star, or I guess now to look at it like this shaman. And I've never really thought of it that way either.
Yeah, I mean, Plato always said to enter my academy, you have to know geometry and music. the bards, the troubadours, probably came out of the Cathars. They were out of the ashes of the Cathars came the bards. So you're right. This music and spirituality are intertwined, and it makes sense. I mean, if we go to our favorite concert, I don't care what it is, Taylor Swift or the Grateful Dead, we're there because that person helps us know ourselves. They see our pain. They help us deal with life, and we sit there in this cave like the mystery religions. The lights are off and everything's out of whack and everything, and the shaman comes up and creates an egregore, and it really helps our psyche and the collective psyche. And sometimes, it heals us psychically, or at least gives us coping skills. With Elvis, it was something else. He literally could heal people on stage. You see it a lot.
Yeah, well, especially with sound and tone vibration, sound resonance, and everything. We know that can heal you. You brought up the Cathars. Weren't the Cathars? I read about them in a book. They were very similar to the Gnostics, right?
You could say they were Gnostic.
I figured. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they were a medieval group. Nobody knows how historically they got there. Probably through when the Gnostics fell in the Roman times. Some of it was smuggled through groups like the Manichaeans and the Bogomiles and others, and eventually incarnated in southern France in the Middle Ages as the Cathars. And they were loved in southern France, and it was a very progressive, enlightened place in a sea of darkness. But they had the Gnostic, the mythologies that change because times had changed. In other words, to them, Satan ruled this world. They called him the king of the world. And they were trying to get through this higher God beyond Satan. And they rejected the church. They hated the cross. They only used the Gospel of John. They revered Mary Magdalene, who is a very important Gnostic leader in ancient Gnostic dispensations and so forth. But eventually, obviously, the church couldn't handle them being around, and the King of France, along with the Pope, created an Inquisition. In fact, the Inquisition started with the Cathars. That's its genesis, and around the 13th and 14th century, they wiped out the Cathars and a lot of the population in southern France. But southern France was this enlightened place where women could own property, and there were Kabbalists. Obviously, there was definitely Knights Templar presence. I mean, Knights Templar were always connected to the Gnostics in some way or another.
Isn't that where the Essenes were too?
I don't really buy into the Essenes. I don't know why. I think they're a psyop.
Explain to me, Miguel, please, because that's very interesting. I've never heard.
There's no evidence. There's very little evidence. Yeah.
What's the evidence that we have? I mean, if any.
Some holy people, holy Jews, and I think it's Philo of Alexander, Josephus, and here and there. But there's just not much. I think, and something smells out of place with them. So I focus on the ancient Gnostics and what they were doing. I think there's a lot more evidence, but the scene seems to be this like empty vessel where people want to put in their ancient mystic pedigree. So.
I can actually see that. So Joseph of Arimathea, do you think he existed, or do you think he was a Gnostic?
I don't know if he was a Gnostic, but he probably did exist. I'd have to double check. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting take. And now I have to go down that rabbit hole, man. I have to take.
You won't find much.
Well, hey, no, that's there is the book I read years ago, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and you see a lot of Southern France in that book, right? With what do you think about the possible bloodline of Christ?
Well, I don't know about that either. I do think there were these mystical secret Gnostic orders who obviously revered Mary Magdalene, who revered more of a cosmic Christ. The Holy Grail, I think, was really just gnosis. It was secret knowledge more than anything, more than the bloodline or the baby of Jesus and Mary and all that. All possible, but
also the Grail being our skull, the cup, right there to where our spine is, and all with the
right. I think it was this ancient secret knowledge that the Gnostics have been smuggling even before Christianity, probably thousands of years ago, about the world we live in and the spiritual technology and all that. Because, yeah, I mean, as John Michael Greer has said, once the Cathars were eliminated, suddenly the Grail legends vanished from Europe for centuries. So that tells you right there what was going on. And obviously the Knights Templar were wiped out around that same time. There was a suppression of this secret knowledge and the spiritual technology with the Cathars, Knights Templar. You know, obviously the Kabbalists got their asses kicked, all these groups. So nothing about these scenes. I don't know. But
do you think they took like a lot of Gnostic thought and a lot of those teachings and just like made the Essenes and were like, well, these people kind of, you know, they existed, and so it was actually them.
Yeah, it might have been.
Christ was a part of this secret, you know, school of mystery.
It's possible.
Whatever.
It is possible because we don't have much, and it's usually Joseph. It's very old, but you don't really. Nobody talks about these scenes. I mean, the church fathers, of course, are for centuries are still railing about the Gnostics, about Simon Magus, and you know, all these other figures they hated and so forth, and they're railing about them through the medieval times and all that.
And now they call them gay. So
I'm sure they did.
Yeah. I don't agree, man. I have a co-host of my Saturday morning show, Gods of the Morning Wood. It's a catchy name. It used to be called Esoteric Book Review. Rat, Season of the Rat, and I believe he is a Gnostic, and man, you should go on. I think y'all would have an incredible conversation. I think I'm surprised he's not in the chat. I'm actually a little disappointed, to be honest with you. I might have to get on to him later.
Maybe they got to him too.
There will be flogging later, Rat. Virtual flogging. So Miguel, what is the key then? Or I guess your personal opinion, or maybe just the overall theology behind the Gnostics. What's the key to leaving this particular realm, this place? Because I know you have to get out of here in about 15 minutes, and I appreciate you doing doing an hour.
Well,
I know I was going to be running late, but
all good. It's all working out perfectly. It's planned.
We're good.
No, I would say you can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave. That's it. I'm joking too. I'm not here to give you like the black pill to the gray pill, guys.
Hey, that's cool, man.
No. I think that's a mistake people make and this is I need to do a vlog about this, is that the Gnostics were never trying to escape the world. They were not doing spiritual bypassing, because people think, let's look at a group like Heaven's Gate, a very Gnostic group, right? But they thought there was a Haley Bob thing, and we drank the Kool-Aid and wore like because we were going to go there. People think that's what the Gnostics were doing 2,000 years ago, and they forget, no, they were trying to get the energy or the information from this supreme mind to bring it back to help others wake up, like Morpheus. And the idea of gnosis is not to make us divine, but to make us fully divine and fully human. If you read the Hermetic text and the Gnostic text, it says, look, we humans have a special place in this world. We are between heaven and earth, between, as Plotinus says, between the gods and the beasts. We have an important role, and we are caretakers of the cosmos. So the greatest thing we can do through self-knowledge, through gnosis, through waking up, is become human. When we become human, we are also divine. And that's when we know our purpose and how to help this world heal or become more individuated. So the idea that you're trying to transcend doesn't make sense. And then also said, look, don't try to check out early, because you're just going to be reincarnated over and over again. So
I asked that question
you can do is be Christ in this world, and also stressed, don't wait for to die to be resurrected. Be resurrected like Jesus in this world. This is where it happens. So
right. Yeah, and I asked that question because I think that's most people's view of Gnosticism, right? They're like, oh, they think we're encapsulated in this fake world, and we have to escape.
Got
And
that right. No.
yeah,
What
well,
about
see,
it?
that's the thing. It's like, well, actually, no. It's the practices and the teachings are to transcend yourself and help others reach that same spiritual ascension, right?
Yeah, like they were like Christian bodhisattvas. They knew they knew they could get out, but once you awake, you're going to be filled with love and empathy. You don't want to leave anybody behind.
Right. Right. And that's something that society is kind of lost, right? Is this empathy for other people. As far, well, you could say there are levels of empathy, right? When it's like hey, let's not let 1 million people into this country, maybe. It's like, we got to take care of ourselves before we can take care of anyone else. And right now,
Yeah.
we need to take care of our own people and our own country.
Yeah, and let's stop destroying their countries. That forces them to come to our country.
Right, right. I mean, especially considering what's happened this last weekend and everything. It's like, what are we doing here, guys? We're seeing this happened almost 30 years ago, right? Around 9/11. And it didn't make sense then. Doesn't make sense. Well, it does make sense, but you have to question. What do we say on the show, guys? Fear nothing, question everything. Miguel, I have a question for you. One last little question I kind of like to ask the guests at the end of a show, just a random question. If you could go back in time in history to any civilization, where and when would it be and why?
Oh dear. And I have to give you one answer.
Just what I can ask another question. Or if there's anyone in particular from the past that you would like to go and kick it with and ask questions, and who would it be and why?
Oh man.
These are hard
Right
questions.
time, the right place. I guess ancient Alexandria, sometime around there.
When?
Because ancient Alexandria, because that city was the place where all the knowledge of the world was. It was a place where Neoplatonists and Hermeticists, alchemists, Gnostics, Christian mystics, Jewish Merkaba were rubbing shoulders, were hanging out at the library where all the world's knowledge was there. Imagine going into that library. God knows you'd probably find they say they had plans for the combustion engine. They probably had the true text about Atlantis. They probably had just knowledge that we still haven't gained, or about the world, about the universe. So maybe ancient Alexandria always kind of comes to mind. So
that's fascinating. You said that. I had on Brandon from Magus in the Media on Sunday. Shout out Brandon, fellow occult reject. Asked him the same thing. He gave the exact same answer, to go hang out with Hypatia.
Yeah.
And
she'd be definitely a cool chick to hang out with. Yeah.
Well, he told me the story of Hypatia, and it angered me a little bit. That's unfortunate, man. What has happened to a lot of our ancient past, especially with like the burning of the library of Alexandria. And now it makes sense, right? Like they wanted to try to erase all of this knowledge, all of and I mean that's impossible, I think, right? Because the knowledge lives on through us.
Yeah, knowledge is power. They don't want us to have power. But yeah, I mean, this stuff exists. Call it where you want to call it. The Akashic Records, the Jungian Collective Unconscious. Somewhere in our DNA, they can only suppress it for so long. It's going to come out.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Miguel. This was awesome. And I'd love to get you on again, here in the next month or so, just to have some more especially definitely after that book comes out, we got to get you on. I have to. So Occult Elvis, right? And then what's the second book called? You said it?
The Gnostic David Bowie.
The Gnostic David Bowie.
David Bowie, there's no even ifs. He was very influenced by Gnosticism. And Elvis was conscious and read the Gnostics, but Bowie was really into them. and it really comes out in his music and worldview.
Well, guys, go and buy the Occult Elvis, the mystical and magical life of the king. Online, I'm seeing it at a lot of places, man.
Yeah, you can find it
Awesome.
anywhere.
Awesome, Miguel. That's great, brother. And where can people find you?
Just probably just pull up my name, Miguel Connor Aeon Byte, or Miguel Connor the Occult Elvis. I have a website, thegodabovegod.com, and then there's places you can go. My YouTube channel, my Patreon,
You
my
have a Patreon?
articles,
Okay.
my social media. Again, yes, support if you can. I've got these days, I'm so sick of the algorithms, the suppression, and AI that I'm putting more and more exclusive gated content because I'm tired of it being ripped off. So, and I'm putting very cutting edge and even controversial stuff. But you can find links to my voiceover to the Occult Elvis. I do have a couple books on Gnosticism, Voices of Gnosticism, and other Voices of Gnosticism. So whatever rocks your boat or whatever entry point you want. And the podcast. Ways to listen to the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, guys, go follow him over on X. He always puts out these reels that will really make you think. I always see him in the middle of the day, and I'm like, oh man, finally
just having some fun.
Oh man, you have a great show, and it's great content. So I really appreciate you coming on tonight, brother. Guys, yeah, go over there, follow Miguel, support him, subscribe to his Patreon, buy his books, and I think me and Headless and Nick may do a Rustic Gods tonight if we have time. I don't have time to do one this weekend. So may do that here in the next 30 minutes. Y'all keep a lookout for that. But don't have anything else. Saturday morning, Gods of the Morning Wood. We are reading the Aquarian Gospel, which is going to be very interesting. I'm stoked for that, actually. And then
Elvis read it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. When I started my podcast, I had Juan Ayala on, and he kind of laughed at me for looking at the Aquarian Gospel. All right. And I was like, because when you read it, man, it makes it like the story makes so much more sense. Like and like the esoteric stuff is like right there in it. It's just, and he's going to India and Nepal, Greece, hanging out with all these mystics and like what you were saying, like having these conversations and that was the path. And I think so we will be talking about that on Saturday, as well as Mysteries of the Druids, W. Winwood Reed's book, I think part 2 or 3. So it's going to be a banger. And then on the Occult Rejects after that, we have someone on discussing Polish folk magic. And I will be there for that. That's going to be a banger. So, yeah, guys, go follow me on X at greypilledpod, Instagram, greypilled_podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, not Spreaker because they won't let me have one. But get me past 1,000 on YouTube, please. We're almost there. And Rumble. If you want to support the show, go over to patreon.com/greypilledpodcast. Also, if you want merch, greypilled.printify.me. Got a lot of cool stuff up. Just put up the Hand of Sabazius shirt, the Cyclops shirt, another Gods of the Morning Wood shirt, some Volsunga Saga shirt. And then, I actually think I ordered some Greypilled merch this week, and it will be here this weekend. So finally can do my own show in my own clothing, my own brand. So that's exciting. It's exciting. But yeah, again, Miguel, thank you for coming on, brother. This was an incredible episode, I think, guys. For people who missed it, be sure to check this one out. I guess you will. You won't hear this till the end. But anyway, guys, until next time, fear nothing, question everything, and stay gray-pilled. We will see y'all later. Peace.